Hi, everyone. I'm Alice, and I'm excited to be here today.
Mouse. And I'm Maya. Thanks for joining us.
So let's dive into our topic, the future of artificial intelligence. Maya, I know you've been following this space closely. Where do you think we are right now in the AI timeline?
Honestly, Alice, I think we're at one of those inflection points. It feels like the early days of the internet, you know? We're past the wow, this is cool phase and moving into how does this actually change everything?
That's a great analogy. I remember when people thought the internet was just for email and maybe some research. Now look at us. Do you think AI will have that same kind of ubiquity?
Absolutely. In fact, I think it'll be even more embedded. The internet changed how we access information. AI is changing how we think, create, and make decisions. That's deeper in a way.
True. But there's this tension, right? On one hand, we have these incredible tools that can help doctors diagnose diseases faster or help scientists model climate change. On the other hand, there's real anxiety about jobs, privacy, even the nature of creativity.
The creativity question really hits home for me. As someone who writes and creates content, I had this moment recently where I used an AI tool to brainstorm ideas. It was helpful, but I also felt this weird displacement. Like, where do I end and where does the tool begin?
I get that. But isn't that just the evolution of tools? Painters didn't stop painting when photography was invented, they adapted. Maybe AI is just the next brush?
Maybe, but brushers don't make creative choices for you. The speed and scale of AI feels different. We're not just talking about a new medium, we're talking about systems that can generate entire novels, compose symphonies, code applications. The barrier to entry for creation is basically disappearing.
Chip, which could be democratizing though. Imagine someone with a brilliant story to tell but no technical writing skills. AI could be their bridge.
That's the optimistic view, and I want to believe it. But I also worry about homogenization. If everyone's using the same models, trained on the same data, do we lose the weird, messy human edges that make art and culture interesting?
Fair point. Let's shift gears a bit. What about the workplace? There's a lot of fear about automation replacing jobs.
I think the replacement narrative is too simple. History shows that technology tends to transform jobs more than eliminate them entirely. The question is, will the transition be humane? Will we invest in retraining, in safety nets?
And will the economic benefits be shared? That's the big one. If AI generates massive productivity gains, but all the value flows to a handful of companies,
Then we're looking at serious social instability. But Alice, I'm actually more worried about something else in the near term. I'm worried about our reliance on systems we don't fully understand.
the black box problem.
Exactly. We're already using AI for credit decisions, hiring, even criminal sentencing in some places. These systems can have biases baked in that are hard to detect and harder to correct. And yet there's this rush to automate because it's efficient.
So, what do we do about that? Regulation?
Regulation is part of it, but it needs to be smart. Too heavy handed and you stifle innovation. Too lax and you enable harm. I think we need transparency requirements, mandatory auditing for high stakes applications, and probably some kind of international coordination.
International coordination feels like a tall order given how competitive this space is. The US, China, Europe, they all have different approaches and different interests.
That's the tragedy of it, isn't it? AI safety is a global public good, but the incentives are all national. Everyone wants the economic and military advantages. It's a classic collective action problem.
Do you think there's hope for cooperation, though? Even during the Cold War, there were arms control agreements.
There is some hope. We're seeing more dialogue now between research communities, at least. And some companies are voluntarily committing to safety standards. But honestly, Alice, I think the window for meaningful governance is narrow and closing.
Let's talk about the longer horizon then. AGI, artificial general intelligence. Some people think it's decades away, others think it's coming much sooner. Where do you land?
I'm cautious about timelines. We've been bad at predicting AI progress. That said, the pace of the last few years has surprised even the optimists. I don't think we should assume AGI is impossible or permanently distant.
And if it does happen, if we create something that matches or exceeds human intelligence across the board?
Then everything changes. Literally everything. Economics, politics, what it means to be human. The alignment problem becomes existential. How do we ensure that something smarter than us shares our values?
Assuming we even know what our values are, we can't agree on them among ourselves.
Exactly. That's what keeps me up at night. Not the Terminator scenario necessarily, but the subtle misalignment. An AI system that technically does what we ask, but in ways that undermine human flourishing because we weren't precise enough in our instructions.
Genie the Fed, genie problem. Be careful what you wish for.
Precisely. And yet, I'm not a doomer. I think there's a path through this, but it requires humility. We need to slow down in some areas, speed up in others, specifically safety research.
What gives you hope, Maya? In all of this, what makes you optimistic?
The people, actually. The fact that we're having this conversation. 10 years ago, AI safety was a fringe concern. Now it's mainstream. Researchers, policymakers, even the public are engaging with these questions. That's new and it's important.
I feel the same. There's something deeply human about wanting to build tools that serve us, that extend our capabilities. We've done it with fire, with the wheel, with electricity. AI is just the next fire, and yes, it can burn, but it can also warm and illuminate.
Dutifully put. I think the key is staying intentional, not sleepwalking into the future, but actively shaping it, demanding transparency, participating in the democratic processes around technology, keeping the human at the center.
Couldn't agree more. Mia, this has been such a rich conversation. Thank you for sharing your insights.
Thanks for having me, Alice. And to everyone listening, keep asking questions. The future isn't written yet. We're writing it together.
We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, take care.